Good morning, everyone. I see we're getting everybody in and super excited that you're going to be joining us this morning. We have an extra special guest speaker for a few minutes here up front that was able to join us this morning. So since we're at the top of the hour, I'm going to go ahead and get us started so we can try to keep this to, an hour, 15 minutes or so. So good morning again. I'm Sherry Porter, Senior Vice President and General Sales Manager with Berkshire Hathaway HomeServices EWM Realty. We're super excited to be kind of getting all of us together to hear the latest in the mid-year mark of 2023. We have some guests joining us today, so I also want to say thank you for taking time out of your schedule to join us. Ron Shuffield, President and CEO of our company, is going to be providing us with a mid-year view. Some of the things he's going to be touching on is an analysis of the first half of the year, the potential for inventory growth, the anticipated influence of what interest rates on the overall market, and a glimpse into what we can expect for the remainder of this year. We're going to be monitoring the chat for questions. Ron, as you know, usually goes through a bunch of slides. So if you do have anything, put that in there. We are recording today. So if you want to go back and listen in, you certainly can. And one of the things, as Ron and I were just discussing about putting this presentation together this morning, we both subscribe to Matthew Ferrara, who is an industry thought leader, motivational speaker. He's a developer of people, a longtime friend, and someone, as we were both encouraged by his message this week about make someone's day, it just seems so fitting when that is the culture of our company. That's who we are. We're always putting others first. And we wanted Matthew, we thought it would be more impactful for you to hear directly from him than him and I trying to convey some of those little pearls of wisdom. So I'm not going to take any more time talking. I'm going to turn it over to Matthew and let him kind of just spend a few minutes to kick us off, get us fired up and motivated. He's going to be rejoining us, in fact, on Wednesday, September 20th at 10 a.m. for a company-wide presentation on one of his best messages on always inspiring you. So Matthew, I'm going to let you share with our group with us today. We've got about 150 people online already.
Well, that's great. Thank you so much for inviting me this morning. It's just wonderful to see you, Sherry and Ron. Hello. And first of all, may I just say thank you for being readers of my newsletter. I'm always just thrilled when my friends are reading my little weekly contributions, and then for sending me back such a kind note that it resonated with you. So it lets me know that the work we're doing is helping, and that's really been my job for the last 35 years actually in this business, is making sure that we in the brokerage business can do good work for ourselves, for our clients, and obviously for the cities and towns and states that we live in, because we're all part of what makes that fabric work so well. I'm excited to be thinking about making someone's day these days, because I believe it is maybe a little counterintuitive to the kind of content and things we see in headlines in the news, and even the conversations we might be having with sometimes colleagues, but sometimes competitors, people out there. It's very easy to fall into the trap of the doom and gloom. And so just setting for myself the goal of making someone's day helps me in my own mind a little bit. Hey, what's my purpose this morning? Sure, I've got to, do business and, get deals done, et cetera. But also it helps me recognize that when I'm maybe hearing things that are not about making people's day, it is a reminder that my job might be to be the counterbalance for that. And today I just wanted to maybe fire you up with two things that might help you with respect to making people's day. And then we're going to go in depth into these ideas with both mindset and practical skills in our September event. So I honestly hope you mark off that time. I've worked with you in the past as a company. I know you're always investing in yourself. So I expect a full house. I know we're going to be full then. And I know you'll take these ideas to heart, but today's just like a little glimpse for the next 3.5 minutes. I'm just going to give you a little glimpse of some things that I want you to remember. And if I do this right, I'm just going to be able to share a quick, there we go, some slides I think you can see. So again, after 35 years of being in this business, and your leadership knows this as well, we've been around, we've seen some topsy-turvy markets. We've seen some weird things going on out there. And you know what? We've always figured out a way to navigate the market. Those are the kinds of things that I talk about in my newsletter, but it's also just the kinds of stories you all should be talking to each other about and making sure that you reaffirm that essentially you've got this. You know how to get good work done for yourself and for others. And that's a key message I want you maybe to repeat to yourself for the remainder of the summer until at least we get together, but maybe just make it part of your everyday, which is you by definition are ready for anything without having to be ready for everything. That's the beautiful thing about what we do in our business. We actually get trained for the anything business and work that we do. Let me give you an example. There's like 170 people on this call here today. So look into your camera right now and raise your hand if every deal you ever do goes perfectly by the book. Right? If it's just perfectly by the book every time, never a problem. Right? I mean, I see some people sort of smirking at me right now, like, duh, that is definitely not what happens. Now, raise your hand if things go wrong in some of your deals, but you still get them done, right? You get them over the finish line, right? So now everyone is waving at me, which is great, I hope, because I want you to remind yourself that you don't have to be ready for everything because you're by definition trained and ready for anything. And you have the support, the colleagues, the management, the training, the branding, the staff, everything can jump into play if you need it. I kind of liken it to this picture I took of a parking garage in New York City where I thought, wow, they really must not think I know how to park my car. Because there's like a sign for drive slowly, pull ahead, stay to the right, park over here, pay over there, have a good day, don't have a good day, I don't know. And I thought to myself, some people in today's market are sort of living their business like that. They're waiting for a sign from someone else that everything's going to be okay. But the truth is, you make things okay every day. You make people's day every day, even if it's not completing a deal. It's how you interact with your colleagues. It's how you interact with competitors. It's your public persona and your social media. And when you're talking to prospects, it's just so critical to realize that you don't have to wait for a sign. You don't have to wait. Ron's going to talk to you about a lot of market data, a lot of research, and that's great. But don't let any of it hold you up. Just look at it and say, great, those are the conditions in which I can make people's day. I know how to do that. And in fact, I also want you to remember this. The market is actually doing its thing. The market is functioning. Okay. One of the things you want to say to yourself every day and then get out to customers and clients is that the market's working. And I just want to point out that even if we're on track for a fewer total number of sales nationwide this year, we're still going to make a lot of sales. We're looking at somewhere around 4.5 to almost 5 million sales this year. I want you to write down the following word. Ready? Get out your pen. And I want you to write down the following. It's called normal. Normal. This is a normal market. We've sold 5 million homes a year every year for 30 years that I've been in this business. Yeah, we had a couple of years where we sold some more, but we also had a couple of years where we sold a lot less too. So we're having a normal market. It feels weird because we were on a sugar high for a couple of years, but don't psych yourself out, okay? But if we're going to sell 4.5 to 5 million homes, my friends, that's 12,329 a day. That's 513 an hour. That's 8.5 a minute. This is a functioning market. This market's, there are people who are saying, I want to sell, they're gone. There are people saying, I'm serious about buying, they're buying with your help. So the idea is that someone's going to make 12,329 sales today, and those someones are you and your colleagues who are focused on the functioning of the market, not the dysfunctioning of the market. It's always easy to look at the dysfunction. And just for my last piece, because, obviously I don't want to do the whole seminar right now, but let me just prove to you that the market is not only functioning, but there are people who still need your help. There are people out there who are waiting for you to show up with an optimistic attitude and help help them, let me just prove it to you. I happen to go online today to, one of those places we love and hate and love. It doesn't really matter. But you've been to some of these major real estate portals out there. And usually we think about them as ways to promote our listings, and then maybe they get in the way of our leads, and we have like a sort of negative mindset about it. But check this out. If you go to some of these major portals and just shift your focus, not from what's wrong with the portal to what might be working. What I did was I went to Zillow this morning and I did a search of for sale by owners, not a search of like, oh, what are they doing with realtor listings? And why did I do that? Because look at what I saw for the greater Miami area. Look at what I saw, 296 people out there who are trying to do it on their own without professional help. Guess what? Those are people who need your help. Those are listing appointments in waiting. Those are individuals who have, now check this out, an 88% statistical likelihood of listing with a realtor. We know that from NAR data for more than 20 years of research. The market is functioning. There's opportunity out there. There's things to do. There are people you need to meet. And there is a positive way to make people's day every single day. And I know you can do that because that's the history of your company and it's what you do every day. And I'm hoping that this morning's message just gives you a little push with some data, with maybe even an activity. Go look around for the people who need to hear a good message from you today and go make their day. This is just a reminder to join us on September 20th at 10 a.m. Eastern for a full class that will take us even deeper into the mindset, skill set, and messaging necessary to keep inspiring others and making their day. And thank you. I know I went over my 5 minutes, but I hope it gave everybody a little jolt to get their day going. And I appreciate the opportunity to share with everyone this morning. Keep up the good work, and I'll see you soon.
Matthew, thank you so much, and you're welcome to stay with us. I know you've got another commitment here in a little bit, so if you want to stay, just hang on and then just drop off when you need to. But thank you. You've gotten us off to a great start. Sherry, anything else I need to say or we need to say before?
No, I know we're ready to dive in. I appreciated Matthew giving us the right context to now take in all these great data, the numbers, trends, and everything else you're going to be touching on in the next hour. So we're ready to get started.
Okay, well, I'm going to share my screen, so I'm going to disappear for a little bit here. Kind of get yourself seat belted in here. We got a lot to cover. We're going to try to talk fast. Hopefully what you'll see today will be a lot of single pages that you can extract and use that to give to your buyers and sellers. We're actually going to quickly go through, like 45 minutes worth, go through 49 slides here. Now, we're not going to stay on all 49 slides. The last few slides, I'll just show you that they're there, and then you'll have access to all this yourself later today after we finish. And then you can go back at your leisure and look at these slides. But we have a lot of good information that will be useful to your buyers and sellers and to you as well. Okay, Brian Williams is helping us here. Brian, anything else I need to know before we get going here?
You're good.
Okay, so we're going to share my screen. Here we go. All right, mid-year market update 2023. Who in the world ever thought we'd be talking about 2023, but here we are. I want to stop for just a second and look at this slide right here. This is the newest slide we have of downtown Miami. Miami is our global brand that all three of our counties use in their marketing. Miami, while Miami is the global brand that the world recognizes, they also recognize that our Tri-County area of Miami-Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach is the lifestyle that we all enjoy. We have so many choices down here, from high-rise condos to luxury estates, lots of property. But I love this slide here because it shows the growth of where we live. Many of you have lived here to see all of this happen just in your lifetime. It's pretty amazing when you see what this is not a rendering. This is what's actually existing in downtown Miami. If you can see my cursor there, you see that red tower sticking up. That's the Freedom Tower. I love the fact that we've been able to preserve that. That was the Miami Herald's first major office where they printed the newspaper. They built that building in 1903. And then by the time the Cuban crisis came in the early 60s, this is the Ellis Island of Miami. So if you're Cuban, I'm sure many of your family members maybe came through this building when they got off of a ship over here, a boat over here to come into the United States. and Miami was their new home. And those people came through this building, and today it's a museum that will be forever, heard about for the generations to come. And then, of course, you look at all the other modern things that have been built since then. Here's our Miami Heat Arena and Bayside, and all these condos that so many of you have helped to sell. This is the Asia building here that has a little pagoda on the top. You can always recognize that by its green outline. This is Brickell Key, 44 acres. Brickell Key was a vacant island in 1979. So again, many of us remember when it was vacant, and now you see the thousands of people that live in these neighborhoods. And of course, you look out this expressway here that's getting a total makeover right now that will be access for the whole world to see all that we have in the way of residential housing, and what we have in the way of businesses that are growing in this area. When we talk about how did we become the place to be, it started with our hospitality and the fun and the sun. But now today, the corporations that we're attracting, the healthcare that we have now built in our city to be one of the major healthcare providers in the world, the technology, as you just go down the list of the financial industry and all the people that are now coming here to join those who originally came just to vacation. But now we've become a full-time permanent residence for so much of the world. Matthew, there you are again. Success starts by believing you're worth it. We've already heard that. All right, this slide here, I guess everybody can see this okay? Sherry, everybody sees the slide all right? Okay, well, on my side, I wasn't sure. All right, so mortgage interest rates, a moving target for 50 years. It's hard to believe that all those bars represent 1 year. But the reason I love this graph is because it shows that, hey, we don't have it very bad. We got a 6.5% rate today, maybe 7%. But look what we've dealt with through the past years. The way we've laid this out, and this is very easy for especially our buyers to see that, while, yeah, they're disappointed that they didn't get a rate over here in the 2.5% range for those, few months that happened. But they certainly were not dealing with these 10 to 18% range rates back in the early in the entire 1980s. So from 1979 to 1990, there was not a period in there where we had an interest rate lower than 10%. So, we're over here like complaining and crying that, oh my gosh, these rates are getting so high. But as you see what people in this period back here were dealing with, and even the periods just before and just after. But I'm going to be working on another graph that we can use then with our sellers and buyers to show that in this period, and again, we, Al Harper and I bought EWM in 1984. So that was right in here, high interest rates. So when we got involved with EWM, we were closing deals at 14% mortgages. But we were also selling property. I know in Pinecrest, an acre lot in Pinecrest in 1984 was $125,000. And now today, with interest rates a whole lot lower, but today, not 125,000 anymore, but we're close to $3 million and actually in excess of $3 million for an acre lot. And it's the same thing for small houses in the Gables. It was 5,000 square foot lot in Coral Gables, 1,500 square foot house, and this same period was selling for $65,000, and now we're selling them for $1.2 million. Now, people ask me, well, what will be happening, in another 30 years? Are we going to be selling these properties for $40 million? Well, yes, we're selling properties already for $40 million, but we'll be selling, even smaller properties than we ever dreamed for higher prices. So the only thing we really have to go by is what's happened in the past. And, we measure everything today so carefully because we have so much data, before at our fingertips. But I think that this graph of showing where interest rates have been, where we've come to today, we have much better ways to manage the interest rates today than we had back then. Today or on Wednesday, the Fed rate was increased again by a little bit. Now we're up to almost 5.5%. Maybe we won't see another, increase this year or ever in this cycle. But our interest rates are not expected to go any higher. In fact, Chairman of the Fed, Jerome Powell, said yesterday that he no longer is concerned about a recession, and that was something that was kind of keeping a cold blanket on things here for the last year. But it's been something that we needed to have happen. Our inflation rate got up to 9% just about a year and a half ago, and now we're down to about 2.9%, I think, today. And the Fed is hoping to get that back down to 2%. And of course, it's understandable when we flooded the market with so much more liquidity during the recession or during the pandemic, a lot of that money just started flowing through the marketplace. Warren Buffett said it immediately. He says, inflation is coming. You cannot put this much new liquidity into the market and not expect inflation. And sure enough, we had inflation. We got up to that 9% number a year and a half ago. And now that number is down because we've all had to tighten belts. Obviously, the challenge that we have in our industry, which we'll see here in a second, is the number of homes that we have on the market today. But this graph right here is one that we will continue to talk about over the months ahead. And now this one is right down to your buyer or seller. I like this graph particularly for our sellers today because it shows our sellers that while their buyers would love to pay more for their homes, many of our buyers just don't have the money that they had a year and a half ago. And the reason they don't have the money today is because they are relying on financing. So the way this little graph works, it shows you at the top here, just to kind of give people their bearings, that in November of 21, the mortgage rate, this is the average mortgage rate across the country, was 2.98% in November of 21. And then in January of 22, it was at 3%. And then you just see right across March of last year, 4%, April last year, 5%, 6% in September, October got up to 7%. February of this year at 6%. We're still hovering just under 6%. But what this graph is intended to show is that at $1 million at 3%, to borrow $1 million at 3%, the monthly payment is $4,216. Many people, even at $1 million buying level, they borrow the maximum that they can afford. So this is all that borrower can pay is $4,216. The lender says, look, based on your income and your credit, this is what you can afford, $4,216. Well, if you can no longer get 3% interest money, and the rate is now 6.5%, so now you have a choice. You can either pay 50% more in payment, from $4,216 a month to $6,300 a month. That's over $2,000 more in payment, or you borrow less money. So this whole little graph is just intended to show the erosion of our borrowing power as the rate goes higher. So this is why we're so carefully watching our inflation rate and having to suffer a little pain right now so we can keep these numbers back at these levels. So today, that same buyer that had $4,216 a year and a half ago could have borrowed $1 million, and today they could only borrow $667,000. So when our sellers say to us, which I would be the same way, well, my neighbor got $1 million a year and a half ago, why can't you find a buyer to pay that? Well, because most buyers today don't have $1 million any longer. They can only borrow $667,000. So if you have questions on that, you can type that into the chat there, and Sherry will pick those up. We'll talk about that in a minute. Excuse me. But this is an easy graph to follow after you just kind of look at it for a little bit, but hopefully that was enough time to spend on that. The tax factor, we will continue to talk about this because this is where Florida and 7 other states really stand out. These green states are the 8 states in the United States that do not have a state income tax. And then you start looking at these other states that have income taxes. New York has 10.9% for the state. And then, of course, New York City has an additional 3 or 4%. And then they have some luxury taxes on home sales, a lot of taxes in these areas. California, 13.3%. So when you read all these articles that people are coming here in growing numbers from New York and from California, it's because a lot of these people are they just don't want to pay more tax. And of course, we have a growing number of jobs. Obviously, the lifestyle in Florida is very high. But all of these states, as you look through in a second here, we'll see the ones that are growing in population. You'll see that these states are the ones that come up high on those lists. Even Minnesota has a 9 and a 9.8% maximum tax. Now, this is most states have a graduated tax like the federal taxes, And so these are the maximum taxes that you pay in these states. And then the states that are growing this past year, the green states are the ones that have had the most growth. As you see there, Texas has had the most growth with 1,290 new residents per day moving to Texas. Florida has 1,142 per day moving to Florida. But then look at all these southern states with 360 a day and 250 a day. Tennessee is the newest member of the non-tax states. So they have now no tax as well. They just became a tax-free state last year for income taxes in their state. And then again, you're going to have access to these graphs, but this also shows in color form here that in the Northeast, all these blue states lost population. All these green states gained a lot of population. So you can just see the population flowing from the Northeast into the Southeast. And as you look at this little box down at the bottom, it talks about the various regions of the country and how they're growing. You know, the Northeast is losing 600 people a day, but then you look into the South, gaining 3,700 people a day. So it's a major movement since COVID, where people are living today. Of course, people are now living in places where they're not necessarily based for work because they can work remotely. So a lot of attention will continue to focus on this map right here. This is the what the exchange rate has done to us. So you have Argentina with still inflation that's just going higher and higher. So for an Argentine this year versus last year, their currency, it cost 105% more in their currency to buy in the U.S. Chile actually less expensive. And so as you look across this map, it shows why we're starting to see people from other countries and maybe not so many from other countries. And of course, we publish this every month and you have access to that. Okay, new developments. I'm not going to spend much time on new developments, but we have a fun new one that's that we have just listed. Patrick O'Connell has been working very hard on this, along with some of our folks out of our Brickell office that have brought this to us. And as you see, this is in North Bay Village, brand new building, two bedrooms, 2.2 million, from 2.2 million, and 3 bedrooms from 2.5 million. So gorgeous location. So we'll hear more about this, but we wanted you to have this today so you can know who to call and where to find information on this. And this is some of the interior renderings of that building. And then Merrick Manor, which we're almost sold out now. We only have 18 units left. But again, this is in Coral Gables, next to Shops at Merrick Park. And then also, some of you have been hearing about conversations we've been having with the largest developer in Dubai, the Damak company, and they have bought the Champlain Tower site where the building collapsed a couple of years ago, and they are going to build a new 59-unit ultra luxury building on that property, and you'll hear more and more about that. And then also not in South Miami, but in the county, but on Sunset Drive near the Palmetto. This is a new development, 13 acres, 26 homes on basically 15,000 square foot lots. Also starting at about $2.5 million, but priced very favorably, $650 to $750 a square foot. This is being developed by Armando Codina and Jim Carr, who are pros at this, have built thousands of homes in South Florida. We have a wonderful relationship with their company. They have their own sales team selling these. They've already sold a third of these. So if you have somebody looking for a brand new home that's close in, Sunset Drive near the Palmetto, a lot of choices other than just these styles I'm showing you here. And then downtown, we've been fortunate that many of you have been selling in this building. This is a cool looking building. This is going to be the tallest residential building south of New York City, 100-story building in Miami that sits on about an acre of land. And these are starting at about $2.5 million. This building is almost sold out, I think. We obviously have been fortunate to sell some of these as well, but this is going to be an iconic building for Miami that the whole world will recognize. Okay, this is my favorite graph of all the graphs that we have. So you have what this graph does, it makes it very simple. It overlays the months of supply with the median price. And you've heard me talk about this for a long time, that the median price is influenced heavily by the number of homes we have in inventory. So this graph is designed to show that back in 2008, when we were still in the midst of a recession, we had 46 months of supply at one point, and then that dropped down to 3 years of supply, huge supply numbers. To try to look at a macro look, I normally don't show you condos and single family together, but make this kind of a simple view. This is a great graph to show to buyers, especially just to show the potential of what happens when you have low inventory. And the way this works is that these first 4 green bars here are 4 quarters in 2008, the 4 quarters in 2009, 2010, so forth. So you see how that works. 6 months of inventory is the minimum inventory that we've found after a lot of years, not just we, Berkshire Hathaway, EWM, but the entire industry realizes no matter what market you're in, you need to have 6 to 9 months of balance of inventory to have a balanced market. So when you have less than 6 months of inventory, history has proven forever and ever that if you have less than 6 months of inventory, you're going to have appreciating values. Once we get up into these kind of inventories of 3 years of supply, in fact, during this period, condos really were almost 5 years of supply. And so we saw prices just tumble. And of course, I remember in 2008, we teased about it, even though it was a very serious problem. We said that we were having a 50% off sale in 2009. So in early 2009, right in this period right here, is when we started finally getting serious about getting the market back into balance. And of course, we've had to do that with what we've done here in the last few months with raising the Fed rate. And that has corrected it and made it, I believe it's going to be painless by the time we kind of breeze on through this over the next 6 months or into next year. We're not going to have this kind of a situation happening. And of course, the recession was a totally different problem where, a total world economic collapse, and we certainly don't have that today. But as you look at this again, when you see these high months of inventory, prices try to stay up here, but then finally sellers just say, look, I need to sell, reduce the price, reduce the price, reduce the price. And then we got into the government taking over banks, and the banks, had defaulted loans. And so a lot of people were making decisions to just push prices down, but look what that did. So now we got into the early 2009. I remember at Brickell, the 2 towers there, at 1060 Brickell and 1050 Brickell, 525 units. Those units had all pre-sold during the period right before the recession in 2004 and 5. It closed in 2007. Only half of the buyers closed on their transactions. The other 50% walked away from their deposits. So you had about 250 properties or condos that just walked away from their deposits. And the developer came out in the spring of 2009 and said, okay, we're going to reduce the prices from $385 a square foot to $190 a square foot. Now, we sold out that building in 4 months. And now those prices obviously are way up to where everybody's prices are today. So this is what happens, though. When you get down to this point, the median price leveled off for a little while until people kind of got to feeling a little more confident that, hey, these prices are going to stick. And then they actually dropped a little bit more into the summer of 2011. So the lowest point we hit for a median price during that period was $143,000. And then inventory, because we sold everything at these low prices, inventory dropped back down to these proper levels. So now in 2011, 12, 13, everybody started feeling more confident. So we started paying more and more and more and more and more, more and more and more and more and more and more and more, until we got up to 2020. And then, in March of 2020 is when we closed down the world because of COVID. And by June, we were saying, okay, well, what's going to happen? Well, we see what happened. The pitch of this graph became even sharper as we got into that period because we were running out of inventory. But look back down at these inventory levels. When the inventory was so low is when the prices started going up. And then the prices started increasing here. This leveled off a little bit. And then when we hit COVID and we had such huge demand, Interest rates, you know, from the other chart, started dropping during this period. And so now from 2020, 335,000 to now 510,000. And we'll see again here in a little bit, you know, for single family, this is over about $620,000 now, and about 420 for a condominium. So again, this graph is a fun graph, easy graph for people to understand. So, you know, please don't forget this one. And we've designed this where you can take one page out of this so you don't have to give somebody 49 pages of everything else. Okay, the overall market. This is where we get into a lot of graphs. I'm going to go pretty fast through these, but at least you see how this works. The overall market, single family homes. This is every price range for Miami-Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach. And we're giving you 4 stats here. And of course, we have a lot more data behind all this. Trend graphics, each one of you have trend graphics that you access, and all, you know, you can get all this information plus a whole lot more that you can share with your buyers and sellers. But inventory, which you will see in most all of these, you know, has been growing. But in single family, we started seeing now, less inventory this year than we've had in prior years. The reason these sales numbers, you're going to see negative sales numbers on almost all of these. It's not because people don't want to buy. It's because we don't have enough inventory. We're down at those low levels of 3 months or under. And as you see here, the overall months of supply in single family homes and Miami-Dade is only 2.9 months. You skip over to Broward County, it's 2.2 months. You skip over to Palm Beach County, it's 2.5 months. So remember, what we're looking for here is a minimum of 6 months. 6 to 9 months of inventory is a proper balance to keep everything in line. Well, what happens when you get down to those low levels, the median prices continue to increase even though sales are decreasing. 7% increase in median price in single family, 4% increase in median price in Broward County, and median price in Palm Beach, which is the highest of the 3 counties at $650,000, is same as it was a year ago. So it's a good sign that some of these median prices are beginning to slow. We're not having these double-digit monthly increases. Now I just switched to another screen. This is the condominiums. So again, 10% increase in inventory, 36% decrease in sales. Similar look and decrease in sales for Broward County, Palm Beach County. Also, inventories continue to grow in those markets. The supply number, though, this is the most important number in the industry. I don't even need to know what market you're talking about. I can look at these numbers and tell you whether that market that we're talking about that I might not know about, whether it's going up or down based on this. If you have less than 6 months of supply, we're going to have appreciation, which is showing here 4% increase. But we've gone from 2.6 months a year ago to 4.7 months today. So we want this number to get higher. And then the same thing here. It's gone from 1.4 months in Broward County to 2.9 months, 105% increase, which these percentages are really kind of irrelevant. Really what we're looking at are these numbers below. We want this number to get back up to 6% or 6 months, so we can kind of temper some of this growth in price. So again, 9% increase in price for a condo in Broward County, 5% increase in median price in Palm Beach. Now, the under $1 million market, you would expect to see this because we just don't have much of this product around. 25% less inventory, number of sales have dropped. The reason a lot of these sales have dropped is because most of these people need financing. And so some of them have been priced out of the market. Some of them have been scared out of the market because they're just afraid to take a loan today at 6.5% versus what they could have maybe had at 3.5% a year and a half ago. But you'll see here that the supply is dropping here from 1.9 months to 1.8 months. And the prices are still increasing there, increasing prices in Broward County, increasing prices by a little bit in Palm Beach County. And then under $1 million market in condos, a little bit different picture because you have more of those. 11% increase in inventory, a decrease in sales, increase in inventory, decrease in sales. You're going to see this similar pattern across all 3 counties. The thing about this market and condominiums have really seen some nice appreciation for the last year and a half, while we didn't have a lot before that because many of these buyers were still able to buy single family homes, but with single family homes increasing 50% in value, it made the condominium seem like a more attractive, and it was more attractive buy for someone that was price conscious and needed a mortgage. Okay, the over $1 million market. Again, this is just the macro look at this, similar, again, inventory is increasing, sales are decreasing, inventory increasing, sales are decreasing, inventory increasing, sales are decreasing. Months of supply, 6.9 months. So now over $1 million market, we're starting to get back into this range, 6.9 months. Median price dropped a little bit. Stuff is so simple. I mean, if people would just follow these graphs, it's very simple. 75% increase in supply. Median price drops a little bit, but now we're here at 5.9 months. If we can get back into that 6 to 9 months of supply, everybody will breathe a little bit easier. But you're starting to see now median prices falling a little bit. They're certainly not, not crashing, but they're falling a little bit. Here's condominiums, Dade, Broward, Palm Beach. Again, the supply from 5-6 months to 10 months. So now we're really getting into, well, now I should say over $1 million. That we move that measurement from 6 to 9 months to 12 to 18 months. So we can handle 12 to 18 months comfortably in the over $1 million market, which we're going to get into now to start seeing those higher prices. So again, median price is down a little bit, median price down a little bit. Palm Beach County, is up a little bit. You have to be a little more cautious when you're looking at these numbers when you start getting into higher prices, because you're going to be dealing with fewer sales. You just don't have as many units selling every month. Okay, now that was the overall market, and now this is the market data by price segment. So this is the under $500,000 market solely for all of single family homes, all just under $500,000 market. This is condos under $500,000, and this is single family from from 500 to $1 million. And again, we're still at 2.2 months of supply, 1.8 months of supply, 2 months of supply. You still see increases in price in this category. But as we get a little bit higher here, you're starting to see now 5.8 months of supply in the 500 to $1 million. Prices have dipped a little bit, And then from $1 million to $2 million for single family homes. Now we're at 4.6 months of supply. This $1 million to $2 million is kind of become the sweet spot of what we're selling. I mean, even $1 million to $2.5 million is where a lot of people are wanting to buy today. And I think that, these months of supply will continue to increase as well. 4.5 months, 4.5 months, and 3.5 months. And for condos, we typically do see that a little bit higher, 7 months, 6 months, and 3.6 months. And then this is 2 million to 3 million, 7 months, 6 months, 6 months. And then condos, again, now, we're 2 million to 3 million. Condo in Dade County now we're up to 13.8 months of supply, in Broward County 9.5 months of supply, and Palm Beach County 3.6 months of supply. In each one of those cases, the median price has dropped just a little bit. But our number of sales, while they've been sluggish for this last year and a half since the rates started coming up, especially, the rates started coming up in March of last year, and that has certainly slowed our sales. But I think that we're going to now see things stabilize as we get back up into these, and again, over $1 million from 12 to 18 months is what we consider a proper balance. So we'll see here now from 3 million to 5 million, we're at 8 months of supply, 9 months of supply, 6 months of supply. And then for condos, that number is generally higher. Here it is again, 14 months, 6 months, 5 million to 10 million, 15 months, 19 months, 8 months. Inventory still increasing in these categories, where at some of the lower prices we saw inventory decreasing. Sales are still, less than last year. And then condominiums, 21 months. Okay, so now we're $5 to $10 million. This is the first time we've seen something over 18 months of supply. And that's in Dade County. And of course, we're building a lot of new condominiums that will add to this inventory. We know from watching new construction over the last, 4 decades, I guess, that as condos are built in batches. I mean, you can't build, 10 condos and then build 10 more. You have to build, 300 at once in a building. And so it always takes us a year or two to kind of absorb that. And that will probably happen again. And of course, This inventory that's building now, some of this is new construction, but most of it is resale. But the new construction that's being built today in this price range, and we have a lot of it being built in this price range, we'll start to see more of these properties, coming into market. Broward County, again, we're talking about small numbers of sales, not a lot of units. I mean, here you only had 18 on the market between 5 and 10 million in Broward County, but there's only one sale this year versus 13 last year, for the quarter. So in quarter 2 in Broward County, $5 to $10 million condos. A year ago, there were 13 sales during that one quarter. This year, it's 1. Well, obviously, that shoots your months of supply through the roof here, 54 months. So you have to look at all these numbers when you start looking at such few sales every month. But this is what the headlines will start to pick up, pretty soon. And then single family, 10 million and over. Again, small numbers of sales, 15 sales in the second quarter in Miami-Dade County, over $10 million. A year ago, we had 33 sales. And then you look in Broward County, 5 sales this year. Last year, 8 sales. Palm Beach County, 34 and 39. Now, again, every quarter is different, and we're talking about a small number of sales. But because these sales had dropped from 33 a year ago to 15 in Dade County, now we're at 39 months of supply, and 31 months in Broward County, but yet only 14 in Palm Beach County. The one thing that we didn't talk about here is the fact that, well, before I get to that, these are the condominiums. It's interesting in Dade County. You remember before we had 15 single-family homes selling over $10 million. And now condos are really right at par with single family in these luxury markets. I mean, 15 condos are selling over $10 million, but a year ago, only 24 condos sold over $10 million. And then in Broward County, over $10 million in condos, only 1 unit, and you only have 5 on the market. But yet in Miami, we have 82 on the market. In Broward County, in Palm Beach County, we have 25 on the market and only 3 sales a month, gives you 25 months of supply. So we'll continue to see some pressure now on some of these high-end, especially condos at these levels. The thing I started to mention a minute ago is that these are all MLS numbers. And you know that during COVID especially, there were several homes and condos being sold off the MLS. So they were off-market sales. I think we're going to see fewer of those as we move forward because the sellers are going to want to be assured that they have reached every potential buyer. And sometimes you can't do that, or most times you can't do that if it's not on the market. A lot of people just don't know it's for sale, and you could have gotten a higher price possibly. So that finishes all of that. Now, this last section, I'm just going to show you how it works, and then you'll have to go back and look at this later because we'd be here the rest of the morning here. It's already 10 to 11 here. Okay, so Miami-Dade, this just simply shows single-family homes and condos combined. So we put everything in one group here, 9,196 units on the market. There were 2,442 sales in the last month. So this is just looking at the month of June. And so we had, for the month of June, 4% fewer sales for the prior month. So 4% fewer than we had in May, but 23% fewer than we had a year ago. Months of supply are still 3.8 months for the whole county. This is, again, every price range, single family homes, everything combined. So this is kind of like a one-shot, take a pulse. 515,000, which is what you saw in that first graph I showed you earlier today. Then Broward County, the same thing. But now this is where it gets into a lot of cities, because I know that so many of our customers want to know, well, what's happening in my city or my market. So Brickell, Coconut Grove, Key Biscayne, Las Olas, Palmetto Bay, Pinecrest, South Beach, Weston. So you can go, flip through all those, and then all this that you see right here, our marketing folks have done a fabulous job here. This is the cover that goes to this. So you can print all this to just create a little book just with this section by itself. And then those other pages that we went through earlier are designed for you to be able to give those or send those individually to your customers. Okay, last, and then we'll have room for some questions here. If
But
you have.
Ron, if I could interject, I did send an email to everybody, about mid-month, and I think this month it was July 12th. You
Okay.
should have received the June snapshots. That's what
Okay.
he's referring to. So I sent you
Right.
an email where you can actually click on this report, or you can share via social media, the different areas. So if you didn't see that earlier in the month, I did resend it right before this session, so you could take a look at it for easy referencing.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to show you one more thing, and then I'm going to go off of this off screen here. The Sunshine Kids is our national charity through Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, and we have been supporting this organization, for 30 years, I think, and we have been giving through our own local market. We've been giving a lot of new effort and exposure for the Sunshine Kids, and of course, the Sunshine Kids, their whole purpose is to benefit kids with cancer and just make life easier for them. Trips to Disney World and different things. And so this is a wonderful organization that's now supported by our 50,000 agents across the country. But our team in Key Biscayne, I know Marilyn Barato and Vivian Gallego Mendez, they are the kind of the sponsors behind all this. You see their names down there on the bottom. But this is going to happen November the 10th. So if you would like to join everybody, we'll all be on Key Biscayne that evening, having fun and raising money for Sunshine Kids, which we work in conjunction with the Key Biscayne Foundation there to help us organize all the funds. And so last year we gave a nice gift to the Sunshine Kids National Program, and now our team in Key Biscayne is doing that again. So thank you, Key Biscayne, and for all the rest of us that'll join in on November the 10th, Friday night, at the Key Biscayne Golf Club. It's a beautiful, clubhouse there where we had this last year, and so it's a fun event, and it's $125 a person. You can buy a whole table or however you'd like to do that, but I hope to see you there. All right, I'm gonna slip off of this.
All right, and I'll take a moment too, just to add that you should have received last week a way, if you're interested in contributing off of your closed transaction on our disbursement form, you can indicate a set amount that you'd like to have taken out. I think we've all seen what a great organization this has been and how we might further that. So we're going to make it easy for you if that's something you want to do. There was a question and a couple coming in, Ron. One was, any concerns right now about insurance? I know that's another topic that we didn't really touch on, but is something that we're seeing.
Yes, we certainly, it's a concern. Our legislators have made some attempt this last session to deal with that. I think we're going to need a lot more help. Obviously, we're all feeling that pain. Probably if we took a hand, showing our hands here, how many people have had their insurance canceled in the last couple of years, it would be a lot of us. I've included, I lost my wind coverage because they said we're just not writing here anymore. And I know that, many people, if they don't have a mortgage, are just going without insurance on the wind coverage because either they can't get it or it's just very expensive. So yeah, that's an issue that we're going to monitor closely. It's not something we can do and fix by ourselves, but I think the fact that we're talking about it so much now, there's going to be a lot of new attention toward that. But it's a tough topic right now because we have a lot of people who are paying a lot more for that than they ever thought they would.
All right. I'm not seeing any other questions at the moment, so I don't know if anybody has. Okay, wait a minute. There is something that just came in from Pasquale. Is the new state condo law affecting prices and sales? Are you seeing anything yet on those new things that are coming out?
The new condo laws, I have not. We have not felt that has had an impact on sales because people are anxious to find a home, and people are paying assessments. They're understanding that they're buying a building that's going to have assessments. But I think that if you look at the cost of maintaining a single family home today versus a condo, I mean, forever people have said, well, I don't want to be in a condo because you have to pay those dues or those fees. But you forget about the fact that to replace a roof is $75,000 today on your house. So it kind of makes the homeowner fees seem not quite so large when you are, when you don't have those kind of costs. But unfortunately, many of our condo associations have not done a very good job of maintaining the proper reserves. And so we're going to have to play some catch up for that now. But I think that people are so anxious to find a home, whether it's a single family home or a condo, either one, they're accepting the fact that they're going to have to pay more in homeowner fees in probably every building.
Thanks. Also, someone asked about, have we had many queries from buyers regarding the new foreigner ownership laws? Have we seen that start to affect any of our sales?
No, we've had questions about it. I think, Aniela has done a great job. If you haven't heard that, you can go back and pick up, her little webinar she did on that. And Sherry,
matter of fact, we'll be sending something out today on that. We did grab it and it's recorded and it'll be in my EWM. So okay. We'll get that back.
I wouldn't worry about it too much yet, because basically, our role is to really not offer a lot of advice on that, because there's a lot of conflicts here. I mean, you get into fair housing laws and other things. We certainly are aware of it. We can give the notice to our buyers and sellers, but as far as us trying to determine what the outcome will be, it's hard for us to do that. But I think we'll certainly hear more about it. I think enforcing this is going to be harder than maybe people think, but we will follow the rules of what we have to do, and we'll make sure that you're staying out of trouble too.
Well, there was another question too, with some of the slides, seeing prices decrease some.
Yes.
And so, we really haven't been probably talking about that as much, but do you think we're going to see more of some kind of easing off of that, and how that might affect sales?
Well, I think a lot of those price decreases, again, are the fact that we have small numbers selling. So if you take a sample of, especially those higher prices, if you take a sample of 15 or 20 sales, you might be taking all the remodeled home sales this month, and just coincidentally, then the next month they're teardowns. So you have to kind of look at each one of those when you're talking about small numbers of sales. But I do think that we're going to see, we're not seeing this high, 5 offers on every house. I mean, we're still having some multiple offers, but nothing like we were experiencing back during COVID. So I think no one is expecting any kind of a major fall off in value, but I do think that homes that are not, showing their best. I mean, I tell sellers all the time now that we earn our full commission before we ever show the first customer your home, because we're coaching them on how to paint, how to clean, how to declutter, how to do a lot of things that are obvious to us, but to someone who's lived in a home for 25 or 30 years, it's kind of like, well, it's always been like that. Well, but this is what people are looking for today, and we know that. So some of the reason that some of those decreases are showing up is because we just don't have the quality of inventory we had before, and a lot of that's been gobbled up. And so that's why we see so many people doing remodelings of their kitchens or bathrooms before they put their homes on the market, because they'll get back that and a whole lot more.
Well, on a kind of similar path, should we expect to have a deeper decline in prices on high-end condos as supplies continues to increase in the next month towards 2026, when most of the developments will be finished?
Well, our business is a supply and demand business. It's that simple. I mean, supply and demand, the way I look at economics is basically the foundation of economics. I mean, it's all about supply and demand. If you have a growing demand, then that cures a lot of supply problems. But if you have a growing supply and the same demand, then prices will typically soften. So I do think we need to keep our eye on that as we grow inventory in any price range. But I think that our demand seems to point to being strong for a long time. The Beacon Council reported, Beacon Council is the Miami-Dade County Economic Development Agency, and they reported that last year was their best year ever with companies that they worked with. They brought in 5,200 jobs, and these were all much higher level paying jobs. The average salary of this new group was almost $100,000, and we've never seen, we used to talk about numbers at 60% of that. So the companies that are coming here today are much higher paid. We know about the companies we read about in the headlines that are bringing 500 people or 1,000 people here with very high incomes, and of course when you get into the financial industry, those are higher incomes. The tech industry, obviously, that's a huge new industry, or not new anymore, but it's a burgeoning industry. And then also healthcare is something that is growing rapidly across all of our 3 counties.
Are there any neighborhoods that you currently think are offering some of the best values as far as opportunities?
Well, I was asked this question. I've been asked this question a lot lately, and my standard answer is you can just throw a dart, and just pick any neighborhood. You basically, you look at the areas that were good, 40, 50 years ago. Those are all coming back and being totally remade. You look along the Biscayne Boulevard corridor through Dade County, and that same, US 1 up through Broward and Palm Beach. I mean, all of those areas that had kind of been abandoned when people moved to the suburbs are now being reclaimed. Another thing I say a lot lately is that everybody wants to be closer to where they need to be. So you have a lot of people now living in the the inner city. I mean, they want to be within walking distance of everything. We don't have a whole lot of public transportation in any of our counties, but in Dade County, you can certainly ride the Metro Rail now to the airport, which you couldn't do until a few years ago. So my answer to that question is that, any area is a good area, especially the peripheral areas around, areas that are already established. I mean, if you look at, you look at Weston and the areas outside of Weston, or you're in Pinecrest and the areas around Pinecrest, or the areas around Coral Gables. And, it's just like you just draw concentric circles wider and wider, and it's just picking up more and more people. And, some of the areas, especially in the kind of the deep inner city, which, had really just decayed, are now coming back with beautiful new buildings. And you have to be a little bit of a pioneer in some of those neighborhoods, but frankly, I think we're kind of past the pioneering stage in most of all 3 counties now. You can almost, again, throw a dart, you and somebody else, builds a new home, and you'll be amazed how quickly other people will be following you.
Someone else asked, any expected impacts from affordable housing legislation that passed in Tallahassee this session in terms of supply?
Well, I do think so. Yes. That's still, it's a small percentage of what we really need. There are a lot of people at the lower end of our income scales that are really hurting, and, there's help out there. I think we're doing a better job as a tri-county area than a lot of other places in the country as far as homelessness, for sure. And, but, I know a lot of people are very stressed by, payments that have gone up, rents that have gone up, cost of everything has gone up. And this is why curbing this inflation is so critical to the whole country. And I think we're doing a good job with that. I mean, those are positions trying to deal with the Fed rates and what that does to interest rates. I mean, that's a complicated issue. It takes a lot of courage to do the right thing. But I think that in a relatively short period of time, we're seeing good results when we can go from 9% to, almost, in the mid 2% range for inflation. Interest rates really, as you saw on that chart we looked at a minute ago, I mean, we're at a rate where we probably should have been all along. One good thing about interest rates going up is it's helping our seniors, because so many people that retire, these last few years, they say, well, I can't retire at 65. I don't have enough money to retire. Well, what this is helping people to do is get some kind of return, guaranteed or fixed return on, CDs and things that we didn't have for these last few years because, rates had gotten so low. So now, 3, 4%, 5% in a CD. So this is good for retirees and people, who are trying to maximize the savings that they have.
One thing we haven't really touched on too much, but somebody was asking about is rentals. We've seen these prices kind of go up, and do you think at some point we might start to see that taper off and come down?
It already is. If you look at, we've gotten, I did a little survey here about a month ago, 2-bedroom, 2-bath condo built since 2000. So these are all built, with hurricane windows and higher ceilings and, nicer finishes and, amenity packages. So if you look at that group of buyer or group of tenants, again, condos, Dade County, with less than 20 years or about 22 years old, I guess, built less than 2000 or built later than 2000. 3 years ago, when the pandemic came, the median rent for that, what I just described, was $2,750 a month. And today it's $4,000 a month. So it's a 45% increase from a little over 3 years ago. And it had been actually a little bit higher than that. So we were actually maybe like 4,150, 4,200, and now those seem to be trending down. So I think, we need to look very carefully with our property owners that use, our help to find tenants for condos in particular. Those rates may not be where they were when they released their tenant a year ago. So we need to kind of stay careful with that, so they don't end up with a vacant unit. When I tell people when these markets change, rather than just drop the price, we'd be better in many cases to keep the price where it is, but give a month's free rent, which is effectively giving them an 8 1/3% discount in the monthly price, but it's just a different way of looking at it. But we still have a lot of need for rental housing.
Well, similarly, it seems like there are a lot of multifamily rental buildings being built in both Miami-Dade and Broward. Do you think these will affect other investors with multifamily buildings, or do you see more tear downs probably happening?
I think that we are going to reach a point where we have enough, and I think that the financial markets, there's still this whole commercial mortgage, backed security group that had built all of their pro formas and built their business on lower rates, and now that these shorter term loans are coming due, trying to replace those is not going to be easy. So I think that that's going to by itself take care of building a lot more new ones right now. And it's going to be hard at these rates we have today to justify building new buildings with the current rents, even though the current rents are higher than they were. So I would anticipate that a lot of that's going to level off. And it's kind of what I talked about a minute ago. When you're building, a 20, 40, 50, 60-story building, you have to make a commitment like, this is like a 7-year plan to get all that done. And you can't just change, from day to day. So we probably will be a while, I think, before we see the amount of building that I think it'll be quite a while before we see the amount of new building that we've seen over this last 4 or 5 years.
Okay. Last question. Do you believe there's an oversupply of development in the over 2 million units in the Brickell market?
Well, I would have said yes a few months ago, but we're seeing so many pre-sales and pre-construction sales. Like I pointed to the Waldorf Astoria, 100 stories, and those are all very very expensive units. And same thing with Aston Martin downtown, and those buildings took a long time to kind of catch fire, but once they started selling, what we're seeing is many of those people are now more permanent users. And whereas in the past, we were selling these buildings back in the 70s and 80s and 90s, and all, Key Biscayne was, all brand new condos at Key Colony in the 80s, and Brickell Avenue was the same thing. And, but most of those people they were second homes. You drive through those neighborhoods at night and you didn't see, you're lucky you saw 10% of the lights on. Well, more and more of those people are permanent residents now. I think fewer people will leave Dade County. That's been happening for a long time. I mean, when people get to retirement age today, they want to stay here because, it's just easy to live here now. I mean, the lifestyles, you can move from a single family house if you don't want to take care of a house anymore, and you can move into a condo that has, lots of amenities and close to things, and you can walk to things and ride the train to things. And so I think that, I don't know. I think it'll be, I think that we will continue to sell $2 and $3 million condos, partly because that's just what they're going to all cost now as we go forward. So, and those, and you have to remember that, I got to EWM in 1984. 1984, one of the first sales I remember making with Dodie Wooten, who was, of course, one of our founders, was Jim Rodder's house in Gables Estates. Again, we sold that house in 1984, which is 39 years ago, for $1.5 million. Now, I think it's pending, somebody had it for sale recently for $45 million, but that would not be unrealistic that, we've gone from $1.5 million, which we hardly had any $1 million sales. I think Dodie Wooten probably made the first $1 million sale in Dade County, when it was made, because she was just she was tied into that market. In fact, a little trivia piece about Dodie Wooten, she was our, the three ladies to start our company, Anna Mae Eslinger, Dodie Wooten, and Arlene Maxwell. Dodie Wooten was born in 1911. Her family moved here when she was 6 years old in 1917. Her father was the second physician in Miami behind Dr. Jackson at Jackson Hospital. And these two men built Jackson Hospital, which is today still the largest number of beds in America, with over 1,500 beds. So that's kind of our pedigree, that, that's where Dodie started. And so, Dodie went away to college, came back, was the social editor for the Miami Herald. And, this is how we got into the luxury market in the very, very beginning. But yet those weren't $1 million sales in those days. They were a lot less. And, we have such a rich history here. And, talking about the three women who started our company, I think most of you know that, Miami was basically started by two women, Mary Brickell and Julia Tuttle. And these two women were powerhouses. I mean, Mary Brickell had 8 kids and she built a city. We complained that we have too much to do. I mean, plus she had to fight off the alligators and the bugs and whatever else. But, the Brickells, moved here in the, 1870s. And, were a big part of what they were. They were the incorporators of the city in 1896. And of course, convinced Henry Flagler to bring the railroad down here in the early teens. And in fact, the folklore probably, but one of the stories is that they gave Henry Flagler half of the land that they owned in downtown Miami, but they gave him every other lot. So when he developed everything, they owned every other lot. So the road went by their house to get to his land. So anyway, kind of a funny story, but I tell you, we talk about powerful women today, but I mean, I don't know if they could have been any more powerful back then, because this was not an easy place. You're literally fighting against the environment and everything else that there was to deal with when you had no services like we had today. So that picture that I showed you at the very beginning is that's, to me, is just it's exciting, but it's also unbelievable that this city could have done what it's done in just a little over 100 years. And you go to Europe and those cities are 1,000 years old or older. And we're like a new kid on the block, and that's why everybody wants to come here today.
Well, and I think that's a perfect note to end on, that, we live in a place that everyone does want to be here in Miami. So thank you. I know it took a lot of time and help putting the presentation together. I know these things don't just happen. So I also want to thank our marketing team for really helping to put the visuals to this. As I said, we are going to be sharing the recording. We'll get that back out to everyone, if not later today, tomorrow, and we're going to be sending you the slides. I did take some notes. There were definitely some really key slides, Ron, that you always share, that we're going to make into PDFs that you can share them individually. And I think to just kind of wrap up what Matthew Ferrara also shared with us, what we're seeing is normal when you look in the perspective of what we've had historically. And really, you guys have this. I mean, what you do day in and day out in helping to make someone's day, I think is at the core of helping them fulfill their dreams of homeownership. So thank everyone for your time, for listening in, and mark your calendars for September 20th, where we're going to take a deeper dive with Matthew Farrar. We'll be getting that all out. And thanks again. Have a wonderful day.
Okay. Thank you, Sherry. Last thing, somebody told me the other day, when people ask you, when's the best time to buy a house? Well, the best time to buy a house is when you need a house. So you can't look at the interest rates and wait for them to go down, because who knows when that's going to happen.
Sure.
Hopefully, what we've talked about here today will give you some new news, some happy news to talk to your buyers and sellers about. All right. Thank you,
I love
Sherry.
what you said. Keep selling.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Have a good one.
All right. Bye-bye, everybody.